I stood in my neighbor's basement at 3 a.m., holding her handwritten spellbook while candles flickered around me. For 6 months, she'd used black magic to destroy my family, made my mom sick, caused my dad's accident, killed our dog. Now, surrounded by her occult altar, I was about to reverse every curse and send it all back to her. Threefold. Hi, I'm Vera. And this is the story of how my seemingly sweet elderly neighbor was secretly a practicing witch who cursed my entire family, and how I discovered her dark secret and used her own magic against her. If you love stories where evil people get exactly what they deserve through their own methods, you're in the right place. Like, share, and subscribe to Revenge Stories X, because this revenge involves breaking into a witch's house, finding her spellbook, and performing a reversal ritual that destroyed her life. Let me take you back to 8 months ago, when my family moved into what we thought was our dream house. My parents bought a beautiful Victorian house in a quiet neighborhood. I was 25, saving money by living at home while finishing my master's degree. The house was perfect except for one thing: our next-door neighbor, Mrs. Calloway. She was 70 years old, lived alone, seemed harmless. But the first day we moved in, she stared at us from her window with this look. Cold. Hateful. Like we'd personally offended her by existing. The mailman pulled me aside our second week there. "Be careful with Mrs. Calloway," he whispered. "The last 3 families who lived in your house all had terrible luck. Fires, accidents, illnesses, they all moved out within a year." I laughed it off. Superstitious nonsense, right? But he looked genuinely scared. "Just don't cross her, and don't let her give you anything." A week later, Mrs. Calloway knocked on our door with homemade cookies. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she smiled, but her eyes were still cold. My mom, being polite, accepted them. I had a bad feeling but said nothing. At night, my mom ate 2 cookies. By morning, she was violently ill. "Food poisoning," Duarte said, but something felt wrong. Mom's food poisoning never went away. Weeks of nausea, fatigue, pain. Doctors couldn't find anything wrong. Test after test came back normal, but she was wasting away. She couldn't work, could barely leave bed. It was like something was draining her life force. She'd always been healthy, energetic. Now she looked like a ghost. Dad and I were terrified. 2 months after we moved in, Dad's brakes failed on the highway. He crashed into a guardrail. Broken ribs, concussion, totaled car. The mechanic was baffled, said the brake line looked like it had been deliberately cut, but that was impossible. Our car was in our locked garage, but I kept thinking about Mrs. Calloway watching from her window, always watching. The final straw, our dog Max. Healthy 3-year-old golden retriever. He started acting strange, howling at Mrs. Calloway's house at night, refusing to go near her property line, seeming terrified of something we couldn't see. Then one morning, we found him dead in the backyard. No signs of injury, poison, or illness. The vet said his heart just stopped. A healthy young dog's heart doesn't just stop. 3 major tragedies in 3 months, all after we moved in. All after Mrs. Calloway's welcome gift. I started researching our house's history, found newspaper articles. The family before us, house fire, daughter hospitalized. Family before them, father's fatal car accident, mother's mysterious illness. Family before them, dead pets, financial ruin, divorce. Every family lasted less than a year. Every family had accepted Mrs. Calloway's cookies. I went to the local library, searched old records, found something chilling. Mrs. Calloway had lived in that house for 40 years. In that time, 12 families had lived in our house. All had terrible luck. All had moved out traumatized. One article from 1987 quoted a former resident. "That woman is a witch. She cursed us for cutting down a tree she liked." I thought it was metaphorical. Now I wasn't sure. I started paying attention to Mrs. Calloway's house at night. Weird lights in her windows flickering, like candles. Strange sounds, chanting in a language I didn't recognize. Shadows moving in ways that didn't make sense. At 3 a.m., I'd see her in her backyard, drawing symbols in the dirt. Once, I swear I saw her burning something and whispering while looking directly at our house. I fell down a rabbit hole researching witchcraft, curses, hexes, found forums where people discussed real experiences with malevolent magic, found protection methods, reversal spells, and warnings. Never confront a practitioner directly. They'll just curse you worse. But I also found something else. To break a curse, you need the original spell or the caster's personal items. Reverse it threefold, and it returns to sender. Mom was hospitalized. Doctors still found nothing. She was dying and no one knew why. Dad was in physical therapy, still in pain from the accident. I was watching my family fall apart. I couldn't just research folklore. I had to act. If Mrs. Calloway was really cursing us, I needed proof. And I needed to stop her. Even if it meant breaking laws. Even if it meant doing magic myself. I watched Mrs. Calloway's schedule for 2 weeks. Every Thursday, she left her house at 7 p.m. for exactly 2 hours, some kind of meeting or coven gathering, probably. Her house would be empty. I could get in, find evidence, find spell components. Maybe find a way to stop this. It was insane. It was dangerous. But my family was dying. I had no choice. Thursday night, 7:15 p.m. I watched Mrs. Calloway's car disappear down the street. My heart pounded as I approached her back door. I'd learned to pick locks from YouTube videos, never thought I'd actually use that skill. The lock clicked open. I slipped inside her dark house. The air felt thick, wrong. Like the house itself was alive and hostile. Every instinct screamed to leave. I forced myself forward. Inside was worse than I imagined. Herbs hanging from every ceiling. Jars of strange ingredients, roots, bones, liquids I couldn't identify, crystals everywhere, but also dark things. A deer skull with symbols carved into it. Dolls with pins in them. Photos of people I didn't recognize with their faces scratched out. This wasn't casual witchcraft. This was malevolent, dangerous, real. I found a basement door. Every horror movie instinct said don't go down there. But I did. The stairs creaked. The basement was lit by dozens of candles, still burning, like she'd just been down here. In the center was an altar. Black cloth, ceremonial knife, chalice, bell. And surrounding it, photos. Photos of me, family, dad, me, our dog. With symbols drawn over our faces in red ink. On the altar was a handwritten book. Leather-bound, ancient-looking. I opened it with shaking hands. Page after page of spells, curses, hexes, written in English mixed with Latin and symbols. Then I found it, a section titled The Neighbors. Detailed entries about every family who'd lived in our house. What she'd done to them. The cookies, baked with cursed ingredients. The specific curses, illness, accidents, death. She documented everything. For 430 years. The last entry was about us. My mom's name with the sickness curse ingredients listed, ritual described, expected timeline. Subject should be bedridden within 2 months. My dad's name with an accident curse. Break line ritual performed under full moon. Mac's name with a death curse. Heart-stopping hex using dog's fur obtained from yard. She'd killed our dog to get his fur for a spell. She'd been in our yard. This was all planned, deliberate, documented. Worse, she had personal items. A lock of my mom's hair, probably from a salon she'd followed her to. My dad's signature, copied from mail she'd stolen. A toy that had belonged to Max. These weren't just curses. These were targeted, personalized spells using our own essences against us. No wonder doctors couldn't help Mom. This wasn't medical, it was magical. And according to the book, Mom had 3 weeks before the curse became irrefutable. I had 2 choices: take the book to police, who'd think I was insane, or use it myself. The book had a section on reversals to break a curse and return it threefold to the caster. Perform the original ritual backward during a waning moon, using the caster's own tools and speaking their name with intent. Tonight was a waning moon. Mrs. Calloway wouldn't be back for another hour. Everything I needed was right here. I made my choice. I followed the instructions exactly. Lit candles in reverse order. Read the curses backward while holding Mrs. Calloway's ritual knife. Burn the photos of my family while visualizing the energy returning to sender. Spoke her full name 3 times with the intent of returning every curse threefold. The air got heavy, electric. Candles flickered violently, though there was no wind. Something was happening. Something real and terrifying and powerful. I finished the ritual with the prescribed words. By the laws of 3, what was sent returns to thee. Threefold the harm, threefold the pain, may your own darkness be your bane. As I will it, so mote it be. The moment I spoke the final word, every candle went out at once. Total darkness. Cold air rushed past me like something leaving. Then silence. I stood in the dark basement, shaking. Had it worked? Was I insane? I grabbed the spell book and ran. I made it out of Mrs. Calloway's house at 8:45 p.m., 15 minutes before she'd return. I locked the back door behind me, ran home, hid the spell book in my room. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. What had I done? Had I actually performed magic? Or had I just had a breakdown in a creepy old lady's basement? I felt insane. But that energy, that moment when the candles went out that had been real, I knew it. The next morning, I woke to sirens. Ambulance at Mrs. Calloway's house. Paramedics carried her out on a stretcher. She looked awful pale, weak, exactly like my mom had looked. A neighbor told me Mrs. Calloway had called 911, said she couldn't move, felt like she was dying. They couldn't find anything wrong, just like my mom. The reversal was working. That same day, my mom woke up feeling better for the first time in months. Color in her cheeks. Appetite returned. Energy coming back. Over the next week, she recovered completely. Doctors were baffled, called it spontaneous remission. But I knew. The curse had been lifted and reversed. Everything Mrs. Calloway had sent our way was going back to her. Threefold. Over the next month, Mrs. Calloway's life fell apart exactly as ours had. Mysterious illness the doctors couldn't diagnose, just like Mom's. Minor car accident when her brakes mysteriously failed, just like Dad's. Her cat died suddenly with no explanation, just like Max. But worse, because threefold, she was hospitalized 3 times. She aged rapidly, like life was being drained from her. People whispered about how she always been healthy and sharp, and now suddenly she was falling apart. Mrs. Calloway came to our door 6 weeks after the reversal. She looked ancient, sick, desperate. You were in my house, she rasped. You took something. You did something. I stared at her coldly. I don't know what you're talking about. She grabbed my arm with surprising strength. Break it, please. I'll leave you alone. I'll leave the neighborhood. Just break the reversal. I pulled away. I didn't do anything. But if I had, I'd let it run its course, like you did with my family. 2 weeks later, police came to Mrs. Calloway's house. Someone, not me, I swear, had sent them an anonymous tip about her basement. They found everything: the altar, the photos, the jars of weird ingredients, documentation of stalking neighbors for decades. While they couldn't charge her with witchcraft, they could charge her with stalking, harassment, breaking and entering, to get our personal items and possibly poisoning. Her kukuka ingredients included toxic herbs. She was arrested. I still had her spell book. Part of me wanted to burn it. But another part knew it was evidence of 40 years of harm to innocent families. I anonymously mailed copies of relevant pages to the 12 families she documented. Let them know their suffering. Had it been random bad luck, they'd been targeted. Several started lawsuits. Others just had closure. Knowledge is power, even when that knowledge is dark. Mrs. Calloway's trial was a mess. She tried to claim the altar and ingredients were religious freedom. But the personal items from neighbors, the documentation of stalking, the toxic herbs in her welcome cookies. Those were crimes. She was convicted of stalking, harassment, and reckless endangerment, given 3 years in prison plus a restraining order from the neighborhood. She'd be nearly 80 when released. Fitting that her own documented malice destroyed her. Here's what I learned about the threefold law. It's not just a witchcraft principle. It's a universal truth. What you send out comes back. Mrs. Calloway had sent out 40 years of malice, curses, harm. When I reversed it all at once, she got 40 years of karma in 3 months. Her health, her freedom, her reputation all destroyed by the same methods she used on others. The magic was real. The consequences were real. Justice was served. Mom is healthy, back to work, thriving. Dad recovered from his accident completely. We got a new dogger rescue we named Luna. Our house feels light now, happy. Whatever dark energy Mrs. Calloway had been sending our way is gone. We've lived here a year longer than any family in decades, and we're not leaving. We won, she lost. The curse is broken. People ask if I really believe in magic or if it was all coincidence. Here's my answer, I don't know. Maybe the ritual was psychological, a way to take control when I felt powerless. Maybe Mrs. Calloway got sick from stress and guilt. Maybe the timing was coincidence, but I was in that basement. I felt that energy. I saw those candles go out. I watched the reversal work step by step. Believe what you want. I know what I experienced. I kept the original spellbook. Hidden, locked away, protected. Not because I plan to use it, I don't. But because it's evidence of what she did, and insurance she'll never hurt anyone again. Sometimes I flip through it, read her meticulous notes about ruining lives. It reminds me that evil is real, but so is justice. And sometimes justice requires getting your hands dirty in a witch's basement at 3 a.m. Would I break into someone's house and perform a magical ritual to save my family? Yes, in a heartbeat, without hesitation. Was it legal? No. Was it moral? Debatable. But was it necessary? Absolutely. When someone is using supernatural means to destroy you, conventional methods won't work. You have to meet them on their level. Fight fire with fire, or in this case, fight magic with magic. If you're experiencing unexplained bad luck, mysterious illnesses, or a pattern of misfortune, especially after moving to a new place or crossing someone, pay attention. Document everything. Research your neighbor's history. Trust your instincts. Not all harm is mundane. Sometimes people use methods we don't understand. And if you find yourself in a witch's basement holding a spell book, read the instructions carefully. Some things, once started, can't be undone. Mrs. Calloway cursed my family using black magic for no reason except that she was a miserable, hateful person who enjoyed others' suffering. She documented 40 years of destroying innocent families. But she made one mistake. She left evidence. And she underestimated how far I'd go to protect the people I love. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button and share it with anyone who believes some things can't be explained by logic alone. Subscribe to Revenge Stories X for more stories where evil gets exactly what it deserves. My name is Vera, and remember, what you send out comes back threefold. Always.